Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Extravagant Trade Group, and this is your end of week video for March 1st, first trading day of the month. And yeah, a bit of in like a lion for the month of March. So we'll make this a really quick video. Just wanted to wish everybody, a very happy weekend, and just also just kind of just going through a couple charts and the performance for the week. And yeah, it was a killer week. A little bit of twists and turns in the beginning of the week, but in terms of a couple of the economic reports that we got, really kind of moved the markets in a general direction, which was mostly higher. And there's a couple of definitely standout areas. The first one I think is bonds, which remember bonds saw a decent move last week, started on Friday of last week. And we're just looking at the weekly chart, and it's kind of interesting. This is now flashing. I don't want to say, I think it's too early for the bullish 80% rule, right? This triggers like once you move outside of the value area and you go back in, right? And this could also happen on the upside too, and it could trigger the bearish 80% rule. But price is not gone through the value area yet for this period, which is the year. So I think that'll be interesting to watch. Here's what this looks like on the daily chart. Notice that with the MarketWebs, you can view multiple value areas on different time frames. So the one in yellow is indicating some high volatility this month, right? That's the value area for this month, and this is the value area for the year, just like you saw just on the weekly chart. But yeah, so I mean, this is continuation. I think this was last Friday, a little bit of back and filling in here, and it's very interesting to see bonds turn the corner higher. I really was worried about a turn lower, so I think that's interesting. And of course, that really moves things around and shakes things up. So here's what we had for today. Keep in mind, like a lot of times, like the first trading day of the month, you should know, I think, what happens on the first trading day of the month on a lot of them is that new money is being put to work into the market, right? Pension funds and so forth, they do that first of the month. Sometimes you see that a bit on the 15th of the month too. But this just tells me that that's a little bit about what was going on today. Also, when you had the economics that came out today, the ISM manufacturing came in a touch light, right? And immediately the dollar dropped. Also, interest rates dropped, and that's kind of led to that move, that intraday move, which was 1% from where we were before those economics. Remember, those economics came out at 10 o'clock, so that was a decent move. What can you say about these semiconductors? Holy cow, what kind of participation these things had today. Just a monster move, and that continues to be the leader. Things like NVIDIA was very quiet yesterday. I actually was getting a little bit frustrated with NVIDIA yesterday because it just wasn't moving. But it got going today quite nicely, and that's a new closing high for NVIDIA. It kind of feels like, and I don't want to jinx it. I'm not gonna jinx, but I think at this point we're above 820. And it kind of just feels like if this could possibly carry a bit, dare I say 1,000. We'll see. Again, I don't I don't make predictions, but I'll carry a trade for as long as it wants to go. And I did get long NVIDIA yesterday. I did get long some AMD yesterday too, even though I definitely favor personally in NVIDIA over AMD. But a breakout is a breakout. And that's what you've got going on in AMD. Taiwan Semiconductor also very strong. We were watching. This was one of the stocks that I had on my list to watch last week, and it didn't do. It just couldn't get going last week. But it did not close above its value area. So to me, it seemed like a great day to kind of take some profits on this trade if you were in it. Broadcom, which is going to report earnings next week. Look at this rocket ship today, up 7.6% today. And part of the catalyst for this group was, I mean, Dell. And I didn't go back and look in to see if this was one of the biggest moves on earnings, but my goodness, a 30% move. It just kind of caps what we saw all week long with some of these names that reported earnings that just made such outsized moves. And I think a lot of them moved above like the implied move that option market makers, try to imply for what earnings, which is based on, a variety of factors, one of which is like what the company's done previously. But holy cow, that is a humongous move for Dell. And this was another name that was very strong today. So this is just, that's just the semiconductors and a couple growth names. But then, of course, if you look at what Biotech did today, really nice comeback from a very weak day today. I've been long Biotech. I did not add any into this. I thought we might go a little bit lower and fill this gap. That's okay. We didn't get it, and that's why I leave a runner on. I actually really like the XLV ETF. And this one, I was waiting for it to kind of come into the 20-day moving average, and then, was waiting for a little bit of a bounce there. Got it today. So very nice. Also ISRG, which is medical devices, was looking at this too. This was, I believe it was on our watch list. Yeah, it was on the watch list. I mean, look at all the names that were ended up dark green for the week. I mean, it's a monster week for some of these names. And again, I don't put if I take a trade, and these are not open positions. This is just our watch list. Some of which I did take, some of these trades, like I traded SMCI, for example, today, which had a nice day. I just traded that one for a day trade. Look at this CLS was up. I think that was actually the best name after the trigger for the week, up 9.5%. Some of these things fluctuated, like CLSK at one point I think was up like 20% or something, but gave back part of the gain. So I could go on and on with stocks, and I wanted to keep this video short. I just thought I would go over as well the weekly performance, and then I'll go over maybe two more charts here. But I mean, look at what just Bitcoin did. This is the Bitcoin ETF that I traded earlier in the week, or that I put on, last week, and took profits in this thing, up 23% for the week. Look at the small caps, up 3%. The Qs, no slouch there, up 2%. The Qs, just to kind of go over, because we've got new value areas for the month of March. It was a question for me whether or not, like, what we were going to see there at the beginning of the month. Never in doubt. I shouldn't say that. No, there wasn't much to a nice move up and continuation, and that is what you want to see once you're kind of at a crucial area. So I kind of complained a little bit about this, not complained, but I just said, hey, it'll be interesting to see which way this resolves. The conclusion that I made was that we did not break below the 20-day moving average. So while it was kind of consolidating, I didn't see any reason to kind of make any changes with my portfolio, because there was no sell signal. So we can overanalyze all we want, but there was no reason to kind of take anything off, in my opinion. All right, so very nice. Well, let's talk about gold, because this was like a pretty decent change, I think. Here's where we started the month, and kind of like that Qs chart, but even to a bigger effect. That's a real nice break. And, I think for me, like, I've got to entertain going long gold. I'm not long gold now, but, with that type of a move, we've seen so many things break out. So, don't discriminate just because maybe you've had a bad experience with gold. But listen, I have to get my mind around it too, because I think gold has been very tough over the last couple of years. And, anytime it looked like it was going to break out, it did one of these, right? It kind of, or here. Remember, like, people were going nuts on this, back in here. And this was, this was March, I guess, of two years ago, was it? Right? Everybody kept thinking that this was going to break out, and it didn't. Now you do have a nice, this looks a little bit different than some of these other attempts, because you had a nice little check back here to the top of the 2024 value area. So it'll be on my list to watch next week. Also, just to kind of conclude or wrap things up, when we look at my note from midday, we're not really seeing any change in terms of 4-week. So 4-week new highs versus new lows. There's actually like a few more new lows on the list. Is it anything to get alarmed at this point? I don't think so, because look at how much the new highs also increased. So new highs increased, a slight uptick in new lows, but I actually I had to put them on two different, not pages, but I had to break them up. Otherwise, the list would have been, it would have been so far zoomed out you wouldn't have been able to see anything. So that's the story there. And another thing that was interesting is we saw a pretty decent sized call buyer in the RSP, which is the equally weighted S&P ETF. Right there it is, the September 170 calls. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I've talked about the RSP in terms of breaking this trend line. We also started to see an slight improvement, not a big improvement, but a slight improvement in breadth, which has been kind of going along with the trend. So interesting to see somebody get long, is something that I think, I also kind of agree with a bit. So we'll see how this plays out. Of course, watch a risk. I would be surprised, of course, if we didn't get some volatility at some point in March. Can I tell you when, or can I tell you what? No, you'll have to be a risk manager and understand that you may have to take off some trades, right, if we get a bout of volatility. But that's how it always works, guys. This was a really great week. Hopefully you did the same. You could visit us at tribecatradegroup.com, and you could be a member there. Guys, have a great weekend.